Hey again. Again, we are so sorry about the technical problems. I really, really hope that we have more or less solved it now. If not, then let's curse together at the internet's gods, or rather pray to them, or maybe sacrifice a prop, or what do I know? Anything to do so that we can make this next session without any problems. That was me praying. I just want to say this is a really exciting fireside chat as well. It's the last one of the day, done by Morten Skovgaard. And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Morten, for doing this. I know you're a very busy man, singing karaoke, doing your metal festivals. And this is Morten's main job, he is actually the co-founder of Character Localization. They're number one in the Nordics for games and also do apps. They started out as freelance translators, and today, and this is like 20 years later, it's hard to believe, they are running a multilingual localization specializing in games, apps, and technology, and they are actually able to handle that in 40 different languages. 40 different languages. I'm only able to do 39, so I'm quite proud of them. So feel free to contact them if you have localization needs. They are a specialist, the best there is, and in all kind of sizes. It doesn't matter if it's a big one. Actually, they have already, I would say, most of the big companies in their portfolio. But even if you're a small developer and you need their services, you should contact them. Actually, Morten's colleague, René Jessen, he is also part of Nordic Game. He is spending his time in the Meet to Match. So if you're interested, make sure to meet him there and get it on. So now, with that said, we are ready for the next fireside. And I can remove my glasses now, because otherwise they will start to, I think they will break in excitement. Because recently, one of my favorite games released this year is the game called It Takes Two. I don't know if you have played it. If you don't, you should. If you have a girlfriend, a brother, a mother, a father, a dog, not a dog, but anyone that you would like to play on your couch with in co-op, you should go for this game. It's simply magical. And with this, I would first like to say hi to Morten. Hey, Morten.
Hello there again, Jacob.
Good to see you again.
Likewise.
I really like the fireside background now.
Oh, it's very.
Are you in a forest fire or something?
Or I'm in the engine room of this ship, which appears to be having a bit of technical difficulty.
Oh no! It's the engine. Oh, I was almost swearing there. Never swear on camera. That was my mom, that she told me back when I was a sailor and she was a nun. Anyways, Morten, now we're ready to kick this off. I'm excited, so I'm gonna leave you to it. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Jacob. I am here with Josef Fares from Sweden's Hazelight Studios. Hi, Josef. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm good here. So Josef is the guy behind the very successful and interesting games Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, A Way Out, and most recently It Takes Two. And Josef is, as I know, all about cooperative experiences and shared gameplay. And he's famous for giving very unpredictable interviews. So I'm curious to see where this will lead. So Josef, let's start off in a place that you hopefully wouldn't expect to start off. Before you started making movies for real, you were actually a teenager running around shooting John Woo-style kung fu movies back in your childhood neighborhood. What was that all about?
Well, since I was young, I've always been creative. I love doing different stuff. So I started making these short movies with my friends. We did it quite a lot. There's a small town called Örebro in Sweden. It went so far so even the police force in Örebro was actually tired of me, because at one point they even came out guns with their guns up, and I like threw away like real life dolls from high with no like what do you say? I didn't ask anyone. I just did it. And when the police came, I was like, yeah, we're just shooting a movie. So it was a very fun time, very crazy time, but quite similar to how I work today. The crazy tone is still with me all the time.
I think the issue of I never ask, I just do it seems to be a driving force for your work today. If you were to somehow travel back in time and meet your 17-year-old self back then and explain to him what life is about based on all the experiences and learnings you've had in the years in between, what would be your most important messages to your younger self?
I would say relax, take it easy, and just go with the flow. That's pretty much what I have done, to be honest. I mean, I've always been like that. I have had an extreme high confidence with what I do. So when I start doing something, I'm so focused in it, so there's no denying or second questioning in me at all. So I've always had that. I don't know if it's from my father or if there's some kind of, there's probably some kind of psychological explanation for this, but for me, coming from a country that was full of civil war, a lot of bad shit, coming to Sweden was really the land of opportunities. So for me here, like, it felt like you could do anything. So I really wouldn't say anything. I probably would say to myself, just wait and see. It's going to be a hell of a ride.
And now that you mentioned your father, he's actually one of my favorite comedy movie characters ever, Farzan from Yalla Yalla. Yeah. He had the infamous stomach punch or belly punch, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's
there's actually a small Easter egg in It Takes Two of that belly punch. Really? So if you play it, there is actually the way. There's a certain type of interaction. When you interact with that, Cody, the male character, would actually use his stomach to punch us. So that's a bit of an Easter egg.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, I mean, you've been using your father in your productions and your brother as well. So would you say that that family is a big important factor for you as a creative, as someone who works creatively, using your family and kind of drawing them into your experience in order to make personal experiences for other people?
Well, you know what they say in Italy: keep the business in the family, my man. No, I'm just. The thing is, like, here's the thing. The reason why I work with my family is that I strongly believe that everybody gets inspired from your surroundings. Either something you look at, read, listen to, hear, or someone you are interacting with and enjoying in your closest environment. So from that inspiration, I tend to use what's around me, and my family is obviously one of the closest things. So for me, it feels natural to use them in the stuff I do when it fits. Obviously, I have a big family with a huge amount of relatives, and everybody wants to be in everything, but it's only if they can fit in it. But I would say that's the main reason. It's the closest inspiration you have. I mean, if you look at my movies, there's definitely inspiration from my life and how I both look at things and experience things. Then why not use them? Why try to find actors that could play them when they're better at doing it themselves?
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So Josef, the cooperative gameplay experience is very much at the heart of your approach to game design. I still remember all the great, awesome times I had with cooperative couch-based games back in the 80s and the 90s. But for some reason, during the last 2 decades, cooperative couch gameplay sort of went away when everything went online, apart from a few games here and there, and the sports games, obviously. Why do you think that we haven't seen more cooperative gameplay in the last 10, 20 years? Because obviously you can find great experiences there.
Well, here's the thing. There's a quite simple answer to that. Like you said, online is one thing, but it's mostly also a technical aspect. So the best example, most people have played Mario Kart. When you go from full screen to split screen, you immediately see the resolution scaling down, the quality gets down, and for that reason, it's way harder to do it today. Before, most of the couch co-op weren't really split screen. They were actually, you had to beat them up. You played on the same screen. Sure, you had like the most famous one, N64, the Golden Eye. Obviously, you had those, but that was the reason. But the quality was very bad. But the reason was there was on the online. But I think the main reason is the online thing. So but the great thing with this is that seeing that couch co-op is really something that is both missed and is really also powerful, and is actually reaching a lot of players. I mean, we're seeing some great numbers. I mean, both how people are reacting and playing, but also sales wise. So there's definitely a need for these types of game, and I do believe that from a story perspective, there's a lot to explore as well what you could do in co-op. Because I would argue that we're not just doing a regular couch co-op, we're actually designing it from the beginning as a co-op only experience. There's a huge difference in that. I mean, most of the games you see today, they have a split screen mode. They normally have a full screen single player, then add on co-op to it. So we go full on split screen. So we design it with mind from day one, both story, mechanics, everything from day one as co-op, and co-op only, actually. And let me tell you this, there was a lot of skepticism in the beginning, obviously, like who's going to buy this, blah, blah, blah. But as usual, I don't care. I'm like, let's do this. And then it becomes a success. So I know people sometimes say to me, like, because I say all the time, this is going to be so good. I can already tell you that the next game is going to kick ass. It's going to be so fucking cool.
Of course it will.
Yeah, but right now people are believing me this time, because I've been saying this and brothers.
Keep saying it.
Yeah.
Josef, I saw
an
interesting chat with you recently with David Cage from Quantic Dream, where you guys were talking about storytelling and game design. And their approach is generally to, as David put it, to start out with the emotions and the storytelling and all that. And you start in the completely different end of the spectrum. You start with the gameplay, and then you build on the story. Could you elaborate on that a bit?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, because here's the thing, many people ask me, because my background is movie, like I mean, we look at movies in general, like how movies are done, how movies are written. But I think it's very important to understand that there's the two different mediums. One is passive, one is interactive. Entirely different. We can get inspired from each other, but they're really different how to approach. For instance, if you write for a book, a script for a book, or if you write a script for a manuscript on a movie, it's two different. You have to approach it different ways. And then in games in general, I think if you only start with a story, if you think that to emotionally connect with the player is only through the story in a game, then I would say you're missing out on what's unique about gaming. Is their interactivity. Without spoiling too much, both brothers, the ending and the way out, how it ends and how it plays, is impossible to make in a movie. And I'm not talking about choices, because I know a lot of people confuse choices being unique for games, but no, you already have Netflix shows that have choices as part of a TV series. So it's definitely one of the few things that is, that you can do in both, the passive and the interactive medium. But in an interactive medium, the interactivity itself and how you use the mechanic to tell your story, how you use the mechanic to make the player feel what you want to feel, what you want them to feel. And if you can use that, then I would say that is super cool and unique for what gaming is. However, that doesn't take away with a great script in a game. But I think we are very, very far off still from like combining the story and the gameplay. And that's what I want with Hazelight. That's what I want us to push on more and more.
Yeah, because it's interesting when you talk about the interactivity as a driving force behind new ways of telling stories in video games. Does it even make sense to talk about real games anymore? Because you yourself reference Netflix. They experimented with Black Mirror Bandersnatch, which was as a storytelling experiment. It was interesting. And we also have for instance, the Walking Dead, the episodic adventure games, where it was basically presented as a game, and you made a lot of choices, but gameplay-wise, it was pretty much just a matter of pushing two different buttons along the way.
It's too passive. It's too passive. I mean, if you look at The Walking Dead and stuff, I mean, sure, it was an interesting experiment, and also with the Netflix there have been actually, I mean, not as big games doing these kind of things, like when you have a movie and you can choose and use it, but it's too passive. To be honest, like I don't see the point with that. I think we miss out the important part of the interactivity. Now, what I say with the interactivity, because this is another discussion, because it's often misunderstood. You often hear this line, for example, "Oh, as long as the game is fun." I mean, I hate when I hear that, because it's so much bullshit. It's not only about the mechanics should be fun. You keep hearing that till today. People saying, "Well, is it fun? That's the most important." Fuck no, it's not the most important. It could be one of them, but the important. Let me tell you this: the intro of Last of Us, that's not supposed to be fun. So you have to use your mechanic to tell what story you're telling. the mechanic could be a part of fun. It could be exciting. It could be engaging. It could be fast. It could be slow. It needs to reflect what's going on in the story. Now, I'm not taking away that it should be fun also, but it's not only about that. So what I'm trying to say is that to explore the interactivity and how to use the mechanics as part of the storytelling, I think there is an underestimation of what we can do, and I think there's a lot to be explored as well.
Mm-hmm. And it seems a bit like you've been swimming against the current recently, because a lot of the games industry, the AAA industry, has been all about open worlds, replayability, and endless grinding and huge environments, and you always get this marketing sticker. Players tell their own story however they want to and express their own style. So I was on a bullshit meter from 1 to 10, where 10 is a load of utter bollocks. Where would you put that line exactly?
I think look, here's the thing. Let me explain to you how we do games at Hazelight. And I mean, I work with EA, one of the biggest publishers that gets a lot of hate and shit, but still, that's how we work, and they are super supportive. We at Hazelight do games the way we want them to, and we let the players understand what games we're doing. We're not making a game to make them love our game. You see the difference here? So we're not deciding, and that is a very important thing. Actually, I believe that someone like me has more love for the gamers than your than your typical one that say, what do you want, because sometimes the gamers don't know what they want. Most of the times they don't know what they want until they get it, you know what I mean? Then I want this. I mean, everything when gamers are asking for stuff now, is most of it has been done before. Someone must have started doing it, so you have to start it. So, and I think like when you focus on your own game and then you make the audience understand what you're doing, that's what we do a lot when we test our games. We don't adapt it so they're like, oh, we want this, we'll do that. No, this is our vision. This is what you're going to follow. I think it's super important. I think you need that to break through. And I think, I mean, I'm a huge fan. I'm very passionate about where the industry is going in many ways. But I hope, I wish that more AAA titles can dare to take more risks. Now, with that said, there's another problem here as well. When you have big corporate companies putting $100-200 million in a project, you can't really go crazy because you have shareholders, blah, blah. So it's all like a circle. We're all part of this, you know what I mean? Because who are the shareholders? The shareholders are regular people like you, me, our father, our mothers, and then who are the players? The same shit over and over. But if we just help each other, keep pushing, make small steps, then I do believe we can make really great AAA titles. We are seeing some great AAA titles that dare to push. But and to answer your question, because I can go on like different stuff. To answer your question is like, yes. So what you're seeing today, sadly, is because there's so much money involved. When big publishers are, doing these open world games, blah blah, they're doing it, basing it on actual statistics and calculation of what goes well and what goes not, and and that doesn't make sense from the creative aspect. So I think there has to be, of course, an understanding. That there's like money behind everything. You can't just go nuts and throw money in the trash. But you can definitely combine big budgets with great projects that doesn't necessarily, follow a formula, like you have your just regular open world. I don't even call them open world. I call them open repetition, because that's what you do. It's not open world because at the end of the day, you have a mechanic, you have some stuff, and then you copy and paste. You can't do anything else. So it's more open repetition. So it's more open repetition, and then the number that goes up, which is the level number. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what it is. I mean, I'm not joking. It's an actual fact, because you can't fill Assassin's Creed or whatever game open world you're doing with, like, I would say the closest game that is kind of quite unique and big, I would say GTA 5. They're at least trying to do some variation in the design of their like missions, and they're trying to do something different. I would say that's the least repetitive game I've played. Otherwise, it costs a lot of money to make an upper world feel unique and nice.
Yeah, and also there is the inherent absurdity of spending so many millions of dollars on games where players perhaps only get to play half of them, or even a lower percentage, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's another thing that I get upset when people, when I do interviews with journalists, I just scream to them like, stop talking about replayability. That also is a mass psychosis in the gaming industry that people are still talking about replayability. Who the fuck cares? We have a huge problem. People are not even finishing our games. I mean, let me give you this example. Witcher 3, which is considered by many being one of the best games ever. 25 million sold copies. 30% of the people finished the game. 70% didn't finish it. So that means that, what is it, 7-8 million finished the game. So it means like 16 million people didn't even finish the game. And you're talking about replayability? This is total madness. Let's focus on making people finish our games. How do we do that? I think many reasons why people don't finish our games are they're too long, they're paced badly, they're too repetitive, they're not interesting enough, or whatever. You know, those are the real tackle about. But instead, we listen to the 0.1% that replay games, and we just do them. Not only do publishers listen to that, developers, reviewers, journalists. And what does this do? Again, you keep pushing, doing bigger games, more crunching, more this, more work, more blah, more shit, more blah. And for what reason? Nobody's even going to play it. What's the reason? You know what I mean? So it's kind of, I just think this industry needs to mature a little bit. And we want to be part. And I keep talking about this a lot. And most of the people agree with me on this stuff. Like when I talk to fellow, colleagues, they say like, I never finish a game. I never do this. I never do that. I'm like, okay, who are we doing this for? Like, sure, I know, like my brother replays some games, and I've replayed some games. I mean, and I don't have anything against replaying. I think the replaying statistics will actually go up if we did a better experience. And I'm not talking about shorter, because I don't want to hear this value for time, blah, blah. I'm so tired of that as well. Like, my value for time. What the fuck? How do you value your time?
Yeah.
Do you want to like spend like 30 hours of repetition? Is that value of time? That I would say that's a waste of time. Now, if you have a really unique, cool, varied experience, there's 10 hours, and you have a repetition going on for 30 hours, that's a waste of time. There's no value of time for that. That is the weird, because I could use the other 20 hours to actually do something more valuable than to repeat the same thing. So you have to look at it from a different perspective. And of course, this is a question that's more complex. Obviously, you have to talk about pricing, blah, blah. But in general, you keep hearing this. You're like, what is going on? We have such a huge problem that, and again, it's going to be interesting to see now, because A Way Out had a 51% playthrough, which was a 6-7 hour game. And of course, there was complaint that it was too short. But okay, 50% didn't play it and it was too short. Got you. And then now It Takes Two is long. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm quite sure it's going to be lower finish rate, which is like a, come on.
It's also hard work for you guys, because since you have basically been swimming so much against the current, I would guess it's a matter of reconditioning players to the thought that they can actually enjoy directed experiences, which are much more compact and complex and shorter, as opposed to the big sprawling RPGs and whatever else they're offered. Yeah, I think you basically get a generation or two of gamers who are used to the other games, who need to be brought into this mindset of having a more, I mean, that is a more movie style way of making things, right? Having a message and having something you want to give your audience, right?
Don't focus on quantity instead of quality. It's actually quite logic. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, sure, you can set a different price point if you want to, like the lengthwise, how it should be, how the game is done. But yeah, for sure. But about this, that we're going against the current, that's normal to me. That's like, I don't really care. People have always said that I'm crazy and why he say this and that. And it's super cool if people don't agree with me or not agree. But what we're seeing, however, is that we're getting a lot of players. People are really love what we're doing. They really like our approach. Of how we look at both in design, the variation of the mechanics, that we're not using the same. There's a lot of stuff that we want to push on and do differently. And this is a good time, because games are about that, to push and change. And this is the time. If you compare this to movies, I think the latest movie I saw that really did something unique and changed the game of the movies was kind of like maybe Pulp Fiction, I would say. That did something totally different. But other than that, like, it's been long. It's way harder to make a movie that really sticks out. But in gaming, I would say it's way easier to make a game that sticks out, which means that games are far away from finding what they are. So when I meet someone that says, this is how you do games, I say goodbye and good luck. You're not welcome to Hazelight, because I'm not interested in someone coming and say, this is how you do games. I'll know that. Okay, goodbye. Go and go work somewhere else. Not here. Here, I want you to be mind fucked. I want you to open your mind and see, like, okay, what can we do that haven't been tried before? Always think the next step. Throw away your first, second, third idea. Go for the fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Josef, that's what we want to keep pushing.
Josef, you keep talking about pushing. I hear you using that word a lot. How do you plan on pushing co-op in your future games? Would we perhaps start to see branching narratives from you guys, which would be definitely one of the areas where you could push them?
Well, you know what I mean. I don't know. Like, here's the thing: when there's lust and passion, that's what's gonna. Like, we're working with this project right now. It's full focus on. I feel super excited. Extremely different from It Takes Two and Brothers and A Way Out. All the games we're doing are very different. Obviously, they have something in common. They have the narrative and the co-op and the kind of like the storytelling and using the mechanics to tell the story and to stuff like that. But they're very different. So I really don't know the future, depending like where the passion is. When you have to understand, like, starting a new project is almost like falling in love. You can feel your heart pumping and like the excitement in it, and that's what we keep on following throughout the entire project. And then you kind of like opens up to the next one. So, but something that we will always do is pushing the envelope forward. Like, what can we do? How can we use the mechanics more? How can we use the story? How do we even write the story for a game? We're not there even yet. We still don't have. I mean, even if we have very good examples like Last of Us or God of War or whatever games you think is a great writing, we're still far off from having like The Godfather or The Usual Suspect or any other great like a big movie. We're not there yet. It's still like far away from it, I would say. But we have some great examples are closely getting closer.
But maybe that's a matter of the games industry needing more auteurs, or basically developers who think like you, who don't as much base their development and their products on focus groups and players' expectations.
Yeah.
But that rather just kick in the door and go with whatever they want to do and tell the players, this is what you have to play because I think this is awesome.
Yes.
It's a matter of finding that courage, right?
Yes, I think so. But I mean, you have to understand, I have an understanding that I am in a unique position where I have a personality to come, and not only convinced, but like I never back down what I want. So if I sit with EA, and if they say, oh, this will give us a bigger market, I'm like, look, it's not going to come in the game if you don't follow the video. They know this. They don't even ask about it. They don't even dare to ask about it. So I'm not worried about that. So you would have to have more publishers, and it doesn't necessarily need to be auteurs. It could be like a specific studio who wants to push something. We want to like have more and more people dare to go against and not follow and not be so afraid of losing money and stuff like that. So it's hard to, it's quite hard to change it, but I hope it does. I hope like we see games like It Takes Two and it does very well, because I don't believe like if you push the boundaries, it necessarily you have to do it in the indie the market where it's like has to be small and stuff like that. No, you can make something big and still push the boundaries. I mean, for sure. So that's what I hope, and I hope that we at Hazelight can be part of it, inspire other studios to do stuff that they might think that it wasn't possible.
Yeah, and speaking of inspiration, since you're actually, I mean, obviously approaching a publisher and getting your game signed requires a great game to begin with, but there's a lot to be said for the power of personality and having a great relationship with the publisher. And since you've tried it already, you might also be able to give off a few hints on how developers could actually approach this in a different way, or in a different way compared to how they think it should be approached.
Yeah, I've understand a little bit. Look, when I did Brothers, I think the most important part is that you feel passionate for what you do, and you have something that you feel, that is your own. Like if you come with an idea and you say, well, this is like Diablo / Zelda / Mario, like it's like, okay, but are you really just doing a concept that you've played that you liked? What do you want to do? That it's important to find your personal tone, what you want. And I think if when people, it doesn't matter if you're a publisher, like whoever sees that will feel your passion. I think that's super important to convince. And then, I mean, today it's very much easy to actually put together a demo or prototype. The technology is way easier than it was before. So even like when I started with Brothers and now, it's a huge difference. I would say put something together to show like this is what I'm thinking, like this is how it could look, and blah blah blah, and then trust your be like kind and trust your heart. I mean, it sounds very open, but I think it's very true. Try to find your tone, your voice.
Yeah. Josef, now that we are rounding off, people are writing questions for you possibly, but I have one as well, because you mentioned that there are things going on in the games industry today that you really like, some current trends that are going in the right direction. Could you point towards some of the ones you think are the most important for the industry as a whole to develop and create new experiences?
Well, there are many, many, and I think one of them is that where to start, how people looking at game. Innovation is something that actually is being encouraged. So, when innovation is done, it's being encouraged by the industry. When innovation is not there, it's not being encouraged. And the sale is showing that as well. Obviously, it could be, said that even if innovation is not there, it could sell. But that's something that I think is good. But from a story perspective, to talk about what's closest to out at Hazelight, that I see more and more mature subjects being told in video games. Now, it's not necessarily always like plays out good, but just the fact that it's going on, happening now, I think it's a super good sign. And I would say the one of the biggest examples to show you like how it could go is you take a game like God of War, for instance, and you take a super silly, shallow, crazy God of War into actually doing an extremely personal story with a boy and his father. I think just that shows you like a little bit of where the industry is going. Obviously, that game wouldn't have happened if Naughty Dog wouldn't have done Last of Us, or if Ninja Theory wouldn't have done Heavenly Sword, or their other games that you co-op. I don't remember what their other game, but you know what I mean. So there's like a collaboration of like pushing, and the reason for that is that we gamers who love gaming, we obviously want to. We want to experience more mature stories, and I see that in the industry in a very positive way, and I think it's been pushing. It's being pushed more and more toward the right way. It's a very exciting industry to be, but there's many other things that is good. So I'm very optimistic about the industry, even if I don't sound like it. I'm very, very optimistic.
So I have some very good questions here from the viewers. So until Jacob cuts me off from the bridge, we should start out with let me see, Julia Vita. She asks, who's your player 2? Who do you enjoy playing co-op sessions with the most?
Well, I don't really have a player 2 right now, because working with the co-op game, most of the time I play on my own to feedback on the design and the team, obviously. And when I obviously have to also play the game from the beginning to the end. I think it takes it was 8 times from beginning to end. But obviously I play the game all the time, but from beginning to end. And then I use different friends and people I both have a respect and trust a little bit, but it's not fun to play with me because I'm so into the mode. I'm like, do this, do that. I'm just in a working mode, so I don't really have a co-op. I'm mostly a single player type of a guy. When I play, I like to be on my own and together. So I don't really have a specific co-op partner.
Okay, so Niels here has actually 2 questions, which I'm going to combine into one. He asks, do you have some tips on how to onboard people into a strong vision for new developers? And how do you reconcile your strong vision with the realities of the industry? Do you have any good techniques to share?
I think again, use whatever you can visually to show what you're thinking. A great example, if when you have an idea or a vision that you can describe in a very short matter, it's actually a good way of seeing if people are getting it. When you can describe your vision in very short, like, okay, this is about this and that, and then it's going to happen like this, and that's it. Then it's gonna. And then I remember when I pitched It Takes Two, it was like 2 or 3 pages, simple ones with just a PDF with a couple of pictures, and I sat down with at that time Patrick Sutherland. I said, okay, this is what's going to happen, and I think. He still till today jokes about how could I give you money for that, but I think he felt the passion when I thought, okay, it's going to happen this, and it's going to be one character here and one, that's the most important. But I don't have any specific way to this is how to introduce your, game, or how you. I think just to find your way of making sure that people understand your vision. You can try it on your friends first, see how they react, and then go on into a bigger group and keep explaining. But then you have to understand games are iterative process. So you slowly also, I sometimes say that the games at Hazelight tells us where they want to go. That's also important to be there to lead the games, to tell them where do you want us to go.
Those are some great insights, Josef. We actually have time for more questions, I was just told. So that is great because Amanda, who is a UX design student, she has a very specific question for you. You mentioned that you don't change your game based on the feedback from playtesting, she says. How would you describe how playtesting and UX research work at Hazelight?
I love UX testing. I think this is the most important when you do a game. Here's the thing. I'm gonna say this again. I'm not saying we don't change, okay? So the things but we make sure that we make changes so they understand what we're doing. You see the difference? We're not changing the game so they can, we're not changing our vision to adapt it for what the players want. We're changing the vision so they understand what we want. You see a difference there? There's a quite difference on the approach. But with that said, I would say UXR testing is one of the most important thing in gaming, definitely, because that's when you're understanding, like, okay, is our vision working? Is the mechanic functioning? And is this we did, I think, 6 of them, if I remember correctly, like 6 quite big. We took in players and tested and tried, and then, okay, what about this? What about that? So most also to see the pacing, how it works, the co-op, how they talk to each other. So that is super important. But it's not like to again explain, it's not like, okay, if someone said, oh, I don't like this level, it was to this or to that, then it's like, no, it's part of the vision. It's supposed to be there. So you have to like it or not like it. But if you don't understand how to get through it, then we will fix it so you understand. But we're not going to take it away because you don't like it. You see the difference here to explain to you. But I believe UXR testing is one of the most important things, and we use it a lot.
Actually, I have to interrupt here, unfortunately. And hey, Josef, I'm so extremely happy you're here. I could have listened to you all day long, man. But
all right,
unfortunately, we have to stop. We have a long program to go.
Cool.
I will so much like the opportunity right now to invite you to talk again in Nordic Game 21 Fall in November. That will be an honor. Please tell Daniel from your team that you will do that, right?
Okay. We'll figure it out.
Thanks a lot, Josef. It was a pleasure.
Great talking to you guys. Yeah. Take care.
Thank you so
nice
much.
having you.
Thank
and
you.
go make some more Kung Fu movies.
Yeah. It's coming.
Good.
Take care.
Take
care. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. And with that, then we are done with this interview with Josef. I can still only encourage anyone that hasn't played It Takes Two or the other great games from Hazelight that you should do it. If Josef Fares is not coming and not available in November, I'm pretty sure that we'll see him next May for the Nordic Game Awards, where It Takes Two I'm sure it will be nominated. But for now, we have to move on. We have still a good, strong lineup left until the very happy ending, which obviously today will be the Nordic Game Awards. So let's do a short commercial break and then we will be back.